Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2. Testing.
All right, we'll call the December 12th, 2024 Revenue Estimating Conference to order. First item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. So without objection, I'll declare that approved. See no objection, it's approved. Approve the minutes from the October 2024 REC meeting. So without objection, I'll approve that. See no objection, it is approved. And then I will recognize Jennifer Acton, the Director of Fiscal Services Division.
Thank you. The U.S. economy remains strong overall. Inflation continues to moderate, and the Federal Reserve began reducing interest rates in September 2024, with ongoing cuts possible through 2025. Areas of the economy that have been especially impacted by higher interest rates that would anticipate seeing increased growth with interest rate reductions include durable goods manufacturing, housing, and new vehicle sales. The Bureau of Labor Statistics recently reported consumer price gains at 2.7% annually, which is up from 2.6% in October, yet down from 3.2% a year ago, and down compared to its peak of 9.1% in June of 2022. Core CPI, which is inflation minus food and energy costs, remained at 3.3%, which is the lowest since April 2021, and down from 4% a year ago. Meanwhile, gas prices continued to drop during 2024. As of December 2nd, the national average is $3.05, down from $3.25 a year ago. The U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis reported that consumer spending increased 3.7% in the third quarter of 2024, up from 2.8% a quarter ago and 2.5% a year ago. Consumer discretionary spending accounts for more than 2/3 of the U.S. economic activity and continues to help drive the economy. Consumer spending has been strong in 2024 and appears to be continuing into the holiday season, with Black Friday sales exceeding expectations. The U.S. Census Bureau reported total October 2024 U.S. retail sales were up 2.8% from October of 2023. The Conference Board Consumer Confidence Index also increased in November as consumer assessment of the labor market improved. Overall, unemployment remains relatively low, although the labor market is starting to show signs of slowing. With wage growth beginning to moderate, it continues to see monthly increases. The U.S. economy added more jobs than forecast in November. However, the national unemployment rate increased slightly in November to 4.2%, and the U.S. labor force participation rate experienced a slight decrease at 62.5%. In Iowa, the current unemployment rate is 3%, and the labor force participation rate is 66.2% as of October 2024. Non-farm employment peaked at 1.6 million jobs in February of 2020, and then again in December of 2023. Through October 2024, Iowa unemployment is at a new average annual high of 15,900 jobs over the December 2023 peak. Iowa's economy continues to show resilience in the face of higher costs for goods and services. Overall jobs in Iowa continue to be plentiful and personal income remains high. Housing permits in Iowa are trending more toward the pre-pandemic levels, and Iowa's leading indicators index increased in both September and October. However, the agriculture and manufacturing sectors are experiencing weaker performance due to higher interest rates, which has resulted in reduced jobs in those two sectors. Shifting the focus from the economy to the LSA's general fund revenue estimate, Iowa continues to be in a solid financial position with full budget reserve funds. The accumulation of general fund revenue continues to slow as expected due to recently enacted tax reductions. The biggest changes we have seen from the October REC estimate to today is an overall increase in state refunds and a decrease in corporate income tax revenue thus far for FY 2025. Beginning January 2025, the top individual income tax rate will be reduced from 5.7% to a flat 3.8%, which impacts both the FY 2025 and FY 2026 forecasts, as well as reductions to the insurance premium tax and the franchise tax, and the elimination of the inheritance tax. The tax reductions have been factored into the LSA estimate. In addition, the pass-through entity tax continues to make estimating complex as it impacts the miscellaneous tax line, as well as the refund and personal income tax lines on the REC sheet. The LSA estimate includes these changes and others. The result is an LSA estimate that is a modest revenue decrease for FY 2025 and a slight revenue increase for FY 2026 from the October 2024 REC estimate. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Plague.
Thank you. Jennifer always does a nice job of summarizing, so I'm just going to make a couple comments. One relating to ag. As a lot has been talked about, ag conditions have changed a bit over the last couple of years. Harvest was as fast as I've ever seen it personally this year due to the dry weather. And I would say yields, from what I've heard from most people, were at least at or slightly better, with some exceptions in some areas of the state that were extremely dry. But the commodity prices have challenged the market, and so and it's early in the credit cycle, so we'll find out a little bit more in the next over the winter months what the true impact of that is going to be on ag. We've seen it in the ag business sector. Obviously, farmers are pretty good at closing the checkbook when they feel like there's pressures on their balance sheet as well. So interest rate, the only comment I'd make there is obviously there's a lot of discussion about the Fed lowering rates, which they have, which they probably will do again next week. But I think what surprised a lot of people is the long bond has stayed fairly high. And so it's keeping mortgage rates in the high sixes, close to 7, which continues to slow the market down. When it did dip into the low 6s, we saw some increased activity. So until we see that again, I think the housing market will continue to be challenged. But as Jennifer said, the overall economy has been pretty resilient, and overall people seem to be fairly positive. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a few brief remarks as well. As always, thank you to the governor for the opportunity to represent the executive branch on this conference. And as always, I want to extend a thank you to the committee members for their thoughtful participation and all the people who helped prepare us for these deliberations, including Legislative Services Agencies, Department of Revenue, and the Department of Management. Today's work does two things. First, it confirms that the state can afford the FY25 appropriations authorized last year by the General Assembly and the governor. Today's recommendations from both the executive branch and the legislative branch do in fact confirm that no FY25 budget adjustments are necessary, and there is no issue with meeting the appropriations made in FY25. We also continue narrowing in on the spending thresholds for FY26. Specifically, our recommendation will be the foundation for setting the fiscal year 26 expenditure limitation, which by statute is what limits the state's maximum general fund appropriations. The spending discipline shown by the governor and the General Assembly have served Iowans well. The reserve funds are full at $961 million. Taxpayer Relief Fund has a balance of over $3.75 billion, and the carry forward from the previous fiscal year was $1.9 billion. The state continues to be in a very strong financial position, in no small part because of this continued spending discipline. Tax cuts are clearly what are driving the reductions in state revenue. So to be clear, but for the tax cuts, the state would be seeing revenue growth. Regarding the FY25 recommendations that I'm making today, the executive branch does not see really any strong evidence to stray far from the October REC projection. While there's a handful of items that are being adjusted modestly up or down, the recommendation holds our revenue projection constant from the October REC at 5.3% reduction, and on a cash basis, a near irrelevant move of $1.5 million reduction from the October estimate. Regarding fiscal year 26, we continue to see underlying revenue growth that is in large part being driven by wage growth and in turn consumer spending. Moody's state level data is projecting wage and salary growth of 4.11% in FY26, and the National Retail Federation is also projecting sales to be above the 23 levels, with total sales up 2.15% year over year and projected sales growth of up to 3.5% for December. These are both positive signals for Iowa's revenue. Iowa has rolling conformity with the United States Internal Revenue Code, meaning in simplified terms that if a taxpayer can deduct something from a federal taxable income, we can also deduct it from our state income taxes. This rolling conformity means that tax changes at the federal level can have direct implications on state revenues. In October, the unknowns regarding the election outcome made it difficult to determine how to factor in proposed legislation by either of the presidential campaigns. However, with President-elect Trump's victory and the Republican control of both houses of Congress, there are certain proposals that the executive branch believes are likely to play a role in the FY26 state revenues. So we have factored in the extension of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act into our FY26 projection. The main component of this is if this economic platform has received wide support from members of Congress. The net effect of the anticipating underlying growth and extension of the TCJA results in a modest decrease in the executive branch recommendation from the October REC moving from a 6.3% decrease to a 6.5% decrease. This is due primarily to the fact that the TCJA nearly doubled the standard deduction for all tax filing statuses. If not for factoring in the TCJA, the executive branch would have recommended increasing the projected state revenues for FY26 from the October estimate. Lastly, I'll mention once again, I would say again, the state of Iowa continues to be in a very strong financial position. So with that, we'll move to the next agenda item, and that would be review fiscal year 2025 general fund estimates, accruals, refunds, school infrastructure transfer, and lottery and other transfers. And I'll go to Mr. Plaguey.
Thank you. That was a great summary. I was pleased this time to see both estimates to be extremely close, both on FY25 and FY26, almost not only by kind of line by line, but in aggregate as well. So my recommendation is that we accept the slightly less estimate for FY26, the LSA one, and move approval of that one.
Is there a second?
I second that.
And any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is to adopt the Legislative Service Agency's recommendation for FY25. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and that is adopted. Next item is the fiscal year 26 general fund estimates, accruals, refunds, transfer, infrastructure transfer, and lottery and other transfers. Mr. Plaguey.
Yes, again, the estimates are very close together, and so what I'm gonna suggest for consistency is that we also adopt the LSA numbers for FY 26. And I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, motion is to adopt legislative services agency's recommendation for fiscal year 26. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and the motion is adopted. The next item is fiscal years 25 and 26 gambling revenues transferred to other funds and interest earned on reserve funds transferred to Rebuild Iowa Infrastructure Fund. Mr. Plague,
I move that we approve the numbers as presented.
second.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is to approve the numbers as drafted on the fiscal year 25-26 recommendations. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and that motion is adopted. Is there any other business to come before the conference? Seeing none, we are adjourned.